I welcome you all to my lecture number 16 on signals and systems, that is for electronics and communication engineering students and for electronics and computer engineering students. Today I'm going to discuss the correlation of discrete time signals. A mathematical operation that closely resembles convolution is correlation. However, our objective in computing the correlation between the two signals is to measure the degree to which the two signals are similar, and thus to extract some information that depends to a large extent on the application. Therefore, our major objective in computing the correlation between the two signals is to measure the degree to which the two signals are similar. Now we will discuss cross correlation and autocorrelation sequences. Suppose that we have two real signals or real signal sequences xn and yn, each of which has finite energy. The cross correlation of xn and yn is a sequence R subscript xy bracket L, which is defined as R subscript xy bracket L is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn into y bracket n minus L for L taking up values 0 or plus minus 1 or plus minus 2. Mark it as equation Z1. Or equivalently, R subscript xy bracket L is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x bracket n plus L into yn. For L is equal to 0 or plus minus 1 or plus minus 2, mark it as equation Z2. Now look at equation Z1. Here, y bracket n minus L is the time shifted version of yn. And here in equation Z2, x bracket n plus L is time advanced version of xn. Here in equation Z1 and Z2, the index L is the time shift or lag parameter, and the subscripts xy on the cross correlation sequence R subscript xy bracket L indicate the sequences being correlated. Now for the calculation of cross correlation of xn and yn, we can use either Z1 or Z2. Both will give the same answer. The order of the subscripts with x preceding y indicates the direction in which one sequence is shifted relative to the other. If we reverse the roles of xn and yn in Z1 and Z2, that is, if we reverse the roles of xn and yn in equation Z1 and Z2 as indicated above, and therefore reverse the order of indices xy, we obtain the cross correlation sequence R subscript yx bracket L is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity yn into x bracket n minus L, that is equation Z3. Or equivalently, R subscript yx bracket L is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity y bracket n plus L into xn, marked as equation Z4. Now look at equation Z3, x bracket n minus L is the time shifted version of xn, and in equation Z4, y bracket n plus L is time advanced version of yn. Now for the cross correlation sequence calculation, you can use either equation Z3 or Z4. Now comparing Z1 with Z4, that is this equation with Z4 or Z2 with Z3, we conclude that R subscript xy bracket L is equal to R subscript yx bracket minus L, mark it as equation Z5. So this equation is very, very important. That is R subscript xy bracket L is equal to R subscript yx bracket minus L. And this we will use in further analysis. Therefore, R subscript yx bracket L is simply the folded version of R subscript xy bracket L, where the folding is done with respect to L is equal to 0. Hence, R subscript Yx bracket L provides exactly the same information as R subscript xy bracket L with respect to the similarity of xn to yn. The similarities between the computation of the cross correlation of two sequences and the convolution of two sequences is quite apparent. We have done convolution, linear convolution in previous lectures, and now we have done cross correlation. Now the similarity between the computation of cross correlation of two sequences and the convolution of two sequences is quite apparent, as a convolution of xn and y bracket minus n yields the cross correlation R subscript xy bracket L. Therefore, R subscript xy bracket L is equal to xl linearly convolved with y bracket minus L. Mark it as equation Z6. Now I repeat, as the convolution of xn and y bracket minus n yields the cross correlation R subscript xy bracket L. Therefore, R subscript xy bracket L is equal to xl linearly convolved with y bracket minus L. Now, in special case where yn is equal to xn, we have the autocorrelation of xn, which is defined as the sequence R subscript xx bracket L is equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn into x bracket n minus L, and that is further equal to summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x bracket n plus L into xn. Mark it as equation Z7. Now you can use this or this equation to calculate R subscript xx bracket L, that is autocorrelation of xn. Now I'm going to discuss the properties of autocorrelation and cross correlation sequences. Let us assume that we have two sequences xn and yn with finite energy from which we form a linear combination, that is axn plus by bracket n minus L, mark it as equation Z8 as shown on the screen, where a and b are arbitrary constants and L is some time shift. Now energy in this signal is summation n running from minus infinity to infinity bracket a xn plus by bracket n minus L the whole square is equal to a square summation n running from minus infinity to infinity x square n plus b square summation n running from minus infinity to infinity y square bracket n minus L plus 2ab summation n running from minus infinity to infinity xn into y bracket n minus L. Mark it as equation Z9. Now, using the definition of cross correlation and autocorrelation as discussed above, I can write or I can express summation n running from minus infinity to infinity bracket axn plus b y bracket n minus L the whole square as equal to a square R subscript xx bracket 0 plus b square R subscript yy bracket 0 plus 2ab R subscript xy bracket L. Mark it as equation Z10. Now here this term R subscript xx bracket 0 is autocorrelation of sequence xn. R subscript yy0 is autocorrelation of sequence yn, and R subscript xy bracket L is cross correlation of sequences xn and yn. Here R subscript xx bracket 0 is equal to ex, that is R subscript xx bracket L evaluated L is equal to 0, and ex is energy of xn, and Ryy bracket 0 is equal to Ey, which are the energies of xn and yn respectively. Therefore, it is obvious that a square R subscript xx bracket 0 plus b square R subscript yy bracket 0 plus 2ab into R subscript xy bracket L must be greater than equal to 0. Mark it as equation Z11. Now, assuming that b is not equal to 0, we can divide equation Z11 by b square to obtain R subscript xx bracket 0 multiplied by a by b the whole square plus 2 R subscript xy bracket L into A by B plus R subscript Y bracket 0 must be greater than equal to 0. That is equation Z12. Since this quadratic equation is non-negative, therefore, bracket 2 R subscript XY bracket L the whole square minus 4 R subscript XX bracket 0 into R YY bracket 0 is less than equal to 0. Mark it as equation Z13. It leads to this expression as shown on the screen. And solving equation Z13 and following this step, I can write that magnitude R subscript XY bracket L must be less than equal to square root of RXX0 into RYY0. And that is equal to square root of EX into EY. Mark it as equation Z14. So the cross correlation sequence satisfies this condition, that is magnitude Rxy bracket L must be less than equal to square root of Ex into Ey, that is energy of Ex, energy of Xn and energy of Yn. Square root of energy of Xn and square root of energy of Yn. So this is equation Z14. In special case, when Yn is equal to Xn, the above equation reduces to magnitude Rxx bracket L must be less than equal to R subscript XX bracket 0, that is equal to Ex. Ex is energy of sequence Xn. So mark it as equation Z15. This means that the autocorrelation sequence of a signal attains its maximum value at 0 lag. So I repeat, based on equation Z15, I can say that the autocorrelation sequence of the signal attains its maximum value at 0 lag, that is at L is equal to 0. And that is Ex. The normalized autocorrelation sequence is defined as rho subscript XX bracket L is equal to R subscript XX bracket L divided by R subscript XX bracket 0. Mark it as equation Z16. Similarly, we define the normalized cross correlation sequence as rho subscript XY bracket L is equal to R subscript XY bracket L divided by square root of R subscript XX bracket 0 into R subscript YY bracket 0. Mark it as equation Z70. Based on equations Z16 and Z17, I can write magnitude of rho subscript XX bracket L must be less than equal to 1 and magnitude of rho subscript XY bracket L must be less than equal to 1. This is very important. So I conclude that R subscript XY bracket L is equal to R subscript YX bracket minus L and R subscript XX bracket L is equal to R subscript XX bracket minus L, that is even function. So Z19 indicates an even function. And this property we will use in further analysis. Even Z18 we will use in further analysis. Now, correlation of periodic sequences. Let Xn and Yn be two power signals. Their cross correlation sequence is defined as R subscript XY bracket L is equal to limit capital M tends to infinity 1 by 2 capital M plus 1 into summation n running from minus M to M Xn into Y bracket N minus L. Mark it as equation Z20. The autocorrelation sequence of a power signal is R subscript XX bracket L is equal to limit capital M tends to infinity 1 by 2 capital M plus 1 into summation n running from minus M to M Xn into X bracket N minus L. So mark it as equation Z21. In particular, if Xn and Yn are two periodic sequences, each with period capital N, then R subscript XY bracket L is equal to 1 by capital N summation n running from 0 to capital N minus 1 Xn into Y bracket N minus L. mark it as equation Z22. And the autocorrelation sequence R subscript XX bracket L is equal to 1 by capital N summation n running from 0 to capital N minus 1 xn into x bracket N minus L. So this is equation Z23. Now equation Z22 is for cross correlation and Z23 is indicating autocorrelation. It is clear that R subscript xy bracket L and R subscript xx bracket L are periodic correlation sequences with period capital N. The factor 1 by n can be viewed as a normalization scale factor in equation Z22 and Z23. Now I am going to discuss input-output correlation sequences. The article is input-output correlation sequences. Let us assume that a signal xn with known autocorrelation R subscript xx bracket L is applied to an LTI system with impulse response Hn, producing the output signal Yn, such that Yn is equal to Hn linearly convolved with Xn. And now I can express it in convolution sum as Yn is equal to summation k running from minus infinity to infinity hk into x bracket n minus k. That is equation Z24. The cross correlation between input and output signal is R subscript Yx bracket L is equal to Yl linearly convolved with x bracket minus L. Now substituting the value of YL here. So R subscript Yx bracket L is equal to HL convolved with XL and further convolved with x bracket minus L. Now the mathematical simplification of this expression leads to HL linearly convolved with R subscript XX bracket L, marked as equation Z25. And you need to follow this step as shown on the screen to arrive at Z25. Now replacing L with minus L in above equation, R subscript Yx bracket minus L is equal to H bracket minus L linearly convolved with R subscript XX bracket minus L. That is equation Z26. Now I can express Z26 as R subscript XY bracket L is equal to H bracket minus L linearly convolved with R subscript XX bracket L, because R subscript XX bracket L is even function. And we have proved earlier that R subscript X Y bracket L is equal to R subscript Yx bracket minus L. So I have attained equation Z27 as shown. The autocorrelation of output signal can be obtained as R subscript YY bracket L is equal to YL linearly convolved with Y bracket minus L. Mark it as equation Z28. Now substituting the value of YL and Y bracket minus L in equation Z28, and that leads to R subscript YY bracket L is equal to bracket HL linearly convolved with XL, which is further linearly convolved with bracket H bracket minus L convolved with X bracket minus L as shown. And after mathematical simplification, I can write RYY bracket L is equal to bracket HL linearly convolved with H bracket minus L, and which is further linearly convolved with bracket XL linearly convolved with X bracket minus L in equation Z29. Now finally we achieve R subscript YY bracket L is equal to R subscript HH bracket L convolved with R subscript XX bracket L in equation Z30. The autocorrelation R subscript HH bracket L of impulse response Hn exists if the system is stable. Furthermore, the stability ensures that the system does not change the type of the input signal. Now equation Z30 is very important because in Z30 R subscript YYL is autocorrelation of output signal. R subscript HH bracket L is autocorrelation of impulse response HN. R subscript XX bracket L is autocorrelation of input signal sequence. Now by evaluating Z30 here, equation number Z30 at L is equal to 0, we obtain R subscript YY bracket 0 is equal to summation K running from minus infinity to infinity, R subscript HH bracket K into R subscript XX bracket K, marked as equation Z31, which provides the energy bracket or power of the output signal in terms of autocorrelations. So this is very important result, because Z31 provides the energy or power of the output signal in terms of autocorrelations. Now I'm going to discuss the basic equation of circular convolution. But before that, we need to understand the concept of circular shift of sequence. Let us suppose I am having a sequence xn. Now I can represent that sequence, given sequence xn, in vector form as x vector, as shown on the screen. That is 4 cross, that is having dimension for 4 cross 1, where capital N is equal to 4, and there are 4 elements in this vector, that is x0, x1, x2, and x3. Now I can arrange this given elements of sequence xn in a circular fashion as shown, that is in the counterclockwise direction. Here I am placing x0, here I am placing x1, here I am placing x2, and here I am placing x3 in the counterclockwise direction. In general, the circular shift of the sequence can be represented as the index modulo capital N. It follows that x dash bracket n is equal to x bracket n minus k, comma, modulo n. Here k is circular time shift, circular time shift by k steps. K is indicating circular time shift by k steps, and I can represent x dash n as x bracket n minus k, comma, modulo n, that is equal to x bracket n minus k with subscript capital N indicating the modulo n operation. Now, what is the meaning of that? We can understand with this example that if k is equal to 2, that is circular time shift steps are equal to 2. That is 2 step circular time shift. K is indicating 2 step circular time shift, and capital N is equal to 4. Then x dash n is equal to x bracket n minus 2 with subscript 4, that is modulo 4 operation. Now I will calculate x dash 0 first, that is at n is equal to 0, and that is equal to x bracket minus 2 with subscript 4, that is modulo 4 operation, and that is equal to x2. Similarly, x dash 1 is equal to x bracket minus 1 with subscript 4 with modulo 4 operation, and that is equal to x3. And x dash 2 is equal to x bracket 0 with subscript 4, and that is x0. And x dash 3 is equal to x bracket 1 with subscript 4, and that is equal to x1. Now I'm going to arrange x dash n in the elements of x dash n sequence in circular fashion. Now x dash n is equal to x2 here, x dash 1 is x3 here, x0 is x dash 2 is x0, and x dash 3 is x1. Now look at this sequence xn and look at the sequence x dash n, in which elements are arranged in the counterclockwise direction, and we can well understand the meaning of time shift by k steps. Here k is taken to be 2 in a circular fashion, that is circular time shift by k steps. Now if x3 bracket m is equal to summation n running from 0 to capital N minus 1, x1n into x2 bracket m minus n plus p capital N, where p is an integer. Then x3m is equal to summation n running from 0 to capital N minus 1 x1n into x2 bracket m minus n with subscript capital N. Here capital N indicates the modulo n operation. Here expression has the form of a convolution sum, but it is not the traditional linear convolution sum. This convolution sum formula involving the index bracket m minus 1 m minus n with subscript capital N is referred to as the circular convolution in discrete time domain. Now I repeat, here this expression as shown on the screen has the form of a convolution sum, but it is not the traditional linear convolution sum. This convolution sum formula involving the index bracket m minus n with subscript capital N, that is modulo n operation, is referred to as the circular convolution in discrete time domain. So this is the formula for circular convolution, which is quite different from the linear convolution sum formula. Now we can understand it through one example. Now perform the circular convolution of the following two sequences, that is x1n is equal to 2, 1, 2, 1. That is sequence x1 n is having elements 2, 1, 2, 1. That is here x1, 0. This arrow sign shows the origin. That is n is equal to 0. So x1, 0 is 2, x1, 1 is 1, x1, 2 is 2, x1, 3 is 1. And we are having another sequence x2n that is having elements 1, 2, 3, 4. And this arrow sign indicates the origin, that is n is equal to 0. So x2, 0 is 1, x2, 1 is 2, x2, 2 is 3, x2, 3 is 4. Now I'm going to arrange x1n and x2n and their elements in the counterclockwise direction as shown on the screen. Now it is x1 and the elements of x1 and placed in the counterclockwise direction in a circular fashion. Now x10 is 2 here, x11 is equal to 1 here, x12 is equal to 2 here, and x13 is equal to 1 here. Similarly, I have arranged the elements of sequence x2n in a circular fashion like this. x20 is placed here, that is equal to 1. x21 is placed here, that is equal to 2. x22 is placed here, that is equal to 3. And x23 is placed here, that is equal to 4. Now for the calculation of circular convolution, we have just discussed the formula for circular convolution. So x3m is equal to summation n running from 0 to capital N minus 1, x1n into x2 bracket m minus 1 with subscript capital N, that is modulo n operation, and m can have values from 0, 1 to capital N minus 1. Now here capital N is equal to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So capital N is equal to 4. Now we will calculate first element of x sequence x3m, that is at m is equal to 0, that is x30 is equal to summation n running from 0 to capital N minus 1 x1n into x2 bracket minus n with subscript 4. Now for calculation of x3 bracket 0, we need to have this product sequence, that is x1n multiplied by x2 bracket minus n with modulo 4 operation. That is x product sequence x1n into x2 bracket minus n with subscript 4. So first I will arrange the elements of x2 bracket minus n with subscript 4 in a circular fashion. Now look at this. Here x2 bracket minus n with subscript 4 is folded sequence. Now I have arranged the elements of x2n in the reverse order with respect to n is equal to 0. Now here the elements are arranged in the clockwise direction. In x2n, elements were arranged in the counterclockwise direction, but in x2 bracket minus n with subscript 4, that is folded sequence, elements of x2n are arranged in reversed order, that is to generate a folded sequence with elements in the clockwise direction. So x20 is equal to 1 here, x21 is equal to 2 here, x23 is equal to 3 here, and x23 is equal to 4 here. Now I will generate the product sequence x1n multiplied by x2 bracket minus n with subscript 4 and arrange those in a circular fashion. So I will perform the element by element multiplication of x1n and sequence x2 bracket minus n with subscript 4. Now this x10 is multiplied by x20, that will give me 2. x11 is multiplied by x23 here, and it will give me 4. Now this x12 is multiplied by x22, and this will give me 6. x13 is multiplied by x21, and that will give me 2. Now I will sum all the elements, 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 2, and that will give me 14. So x30 is equal to 14. Similarly, we can calculate x3m from the graphed sequences as x31 is equal to summation n running from 0 to 3, because capital N is equal to 4, so n minus 1 is equal to 3. So x31 is equal to summation n running from 0 to 3 x1n into x2 bracket 1 minus n with subscript 4. Now we need to have the product sequence x1n multiplied by x2 bracket 1 minus n with subscript 4. So first we will arrange the elements of x2 bracket 1 minus n with subscript 4. For that we have already arrangement of elements in x2 bracket minus n with subscript 4. Now these elements are shifted to generate folded sequence rotated by 1 unit in time, that is x2 bracket 1 minus n with subscript 4. Now look at this sequence. Now in this sequence, x20 is equal to 1 here, x21 is equal to 2 here, x22 is equal to 3 here, and x23 is equal to 4 here. You can compare this, and you can well imagine that how I have shifted it by 1 unit. That is, this graph is showing the folded sequence rotated by 1 unit in time. That is x2 bracket 1 minus n with subscript 4. Now for calculation of x31, I will multiply x1n and sequence x1n and sequence x2 bracket 1 minus n with subscript 4 element by element, and then sum those the elements of product sequence, sum the elements of the product sequence, and I can calculate x31 is equal to 16, x32 is equal to 14, x33 is equal to 16. It is quite similar to as I have discussed the first part, that is calculation of x3 bracket 0. So we will follow this strategy for calculation of x31, that is equal to summation n running from 0 to 3 x1 n into x2 bracket 1 minus n with subscript 4, and that is equal to 16. And x32 is equal to summation n running from 0 to 3 x1 n into x2 bracket 2 minus n with subscript 4, and that is equal to 14. x3 bracket 3, that is equal to summation n running from 0 to 3 x1 n into x2 bracket 3 minus n with subscript 4, and that is equal to 16. Now I will arrange the elements in the vector form as, or give answer as x3m is equal to bracket 14, 16, 14, 16, and the arrow sign indicates the origin, that is n is equal to m is equal to 0. Here m is equal to 0. So x3m is equal to 14, 16, 14, 16 sequence, and here first element is indicating m is equal to 0, that is x30. Here this is x31, this is x32, and this is x33. Basically, this symbol arrow sign indicates m is equal to 0. So this is x3 0, starting from this 14, 16, 14, 16. In circular convolution, the folding and shifting bracket rotating operations are performed in a circular fashion by computing the index of one of the sequences by using modulo capital N operation. The circular convolution is expressed as x1n circularly convolved with x2n to give x3n. Now, this operator is called circular convolution operator, and this is quite different from the linear convolution operator. And this is the example indicating that how we will perform the circular convolution operation on two sequences. Here, for circular convolution between two sequences, or to perform the circular convolution between two sequences, that is x1n and x2n, the length of two sequences must be equal. So here it is capital N is equal to 4. We will discuss circular convolution and its properties and its derivation in detail when we will do DFT, that is discrete Fourier transform. Now, next article is Introduction to Laplace Transform. Now I am going to discuss Laplace transform briefly. It is just introduction to Laplace transform. We are not going to discuss it in detail. The Laplace transform of a general signal xt is defined as capital Xs is equal to integration from minus infinity to infinity xt e raised from minus st dt, with s is equal to sigma plus j capital omega. Here s is complex variable marked as equation A1. Now Laplace transform of xt is equal to capital Xs, and it is represented by this symbol L. Now capital Xs evaluated as s is equal to j capital omega is equal to CTFT of xt, that is continuous time Fourier transform of xt. That is, in Laplace transform, if I assume s is equal to j capital omega, then capital Xs is CTFT of xt, that is continuous time Fourier transform of signal xt. Here, capital Xs is equal to capital X bracket sigma plus j omega, and that is equal to integration from minus infinity to infinity bracket xt e raised to minus sigma t e raised to minus j omega t dt, marked as equation B1. Now what I have done, I have substituted value of s, that is sigma plus j omega, in equation A1 and got equation B1 as shown, and it shows that capital Xs is equal to CTFT of signal xt into e raised to power minus sigma t. The range of values of s for which the integral in equation A1 converges is referred to as region of convergence, or ROC of Laplace transform. The ROC consists of those values of s for which the continuous Fourier transform of xt into e raised to power sigma t converges, as it is clear from equation B1. Look at equation B1, that is capital Xs is equal to CTFT of signal bracket xt e raised to power minus sigma t. I repeat, equation B1 indicates that capital Xs is equal to CTFT of signal xt e raised to power minus sigma t. Therefore, the ROC consists of those values of s for which the continuous time Fourier transform of xt into e raised to minus sigma t converges. In some cases, the Laplace transform exists, but CTFT does not. I repeat, it is very important. In some cases, the Laplace transform exists, but continuous time Fourier transform does not. Now we will discuss one example. Let the signal xt is equal to e raised to minus at ut for a greater than 0. So calculate its Laplace transform, that is capital XS is equal to some integration from minus infinity to infinity, e raised to minus at ut into e raised to minus st dt. I repeat, capital XS is equal to integration from minus infinity to infinity, e raised to power minus at ut e raised to minus st dt. And we know that ut is 1 for t greater than 0. Now the limit of integration is from 0 to infinity. So x is equal to integration 0 to infinity e raised to minus at e raised to minus st dt. Now for real s greater than minus a, capital Xs is equal to 1 by s plus a. Now the Laplace transform capital Xs is exhibiting one pole at s is equal to minus a, here indicated. And ROC is real s greater than minus a. Now this shaded portion shows the ROC, region of convergence in S plane. This is the real S. This is on y-axis imaginary x S. That is, in this plot, x-axis, on x-axis we have plotted real S, and on y-axis I have plotted imaginary S, and ROC is shaded portion as shown, and this is pole at s equal to minus a. Therefore, it is quite clear that real bracket s plus a must be greater than 0, and that leads to region of this region of convergence, that real s is greater than minus a. Now look at this mathematical expression carefully. Now in the next example, let the signal xt is equal to minus e raised to minus at u bracket minus t for a greater than 0. So its Laplace transform is capital Xs is equal to minus integration from minus infinity to infinity e raised to minus at into e raised to minus st into u bracket minus t dt. Now solving this integration, I can get the answer capital X s is equal to 1 by s plus a for real s plus a less than 0 or real s is less than minus a. Therefore, capital Xs is equal to 1 by s plus a for real s less than minus a. Now, capital Xs is exhibiting one pole at s is equal to minus a as shown here in the graph, in the plot. Now on x-axis, I have plotted real s, and on y-axis, I have plotted imaginary s. But the real region of convergence, that is ROC, is different. Look at this. The shaded portion is ROC. Now the critical point in these both examples is that now for the signal xt is equal to e raised to minus at ut, capital Xs is equal to 1 by s plus a. And for the signal xt is equal to minus e raised to minus at u minus t, capital Xs is equal to 1 plus s plus a. Both mathematical expressions are same, but they differ in region of convergence. Both signals are different. The end result is coming out to be mathematically same, that is x is equal to 1 by s plus a. But the region of convergence in this part is real s greater than minus a, and in this part real s is less than minus a. So this is basic difference between these both cases, that region of convergence in both cases is different. Now some important results. If Laplace transform capital Xs of xt is rational, then if xt is right-sided, the ROC is the region in S plane to the right of the rightmost pole. If xt is left-sided, the ROC is the region in S plane to the left of leftmost pole. Now look at this signal. ROC is right of the rightmost pole. Now look at this signal. ROC is the region in S-plane to the left of the leftmost pole. Now, for a system with a rational system function, causality of system is equivalent to the ROC being right half plane to the rightmost pole. An LTI system is stable if and only if the ROC of its system function Hs includes the j omega axis, that is real S is equal to 0. That is at real S is equal to 0. An LTI system is stable if and only if the ROC of its system function capital Hs includes the j omega axis, that is real S is equal to 0. The stability of an LTI system is equivalent to its impulse response being absolutely integrable. In that case, the continuous time Fourier transform of the impulse response converges. Now, the LTI systems characterized by linear constant coefficient differential equation are represented as summation k running from 0 to capital N AK multiplied by kth derivative of yt with respect to t is equal to summation k running from 0 to capital N bk into kth derivative of xt with respect to t, where xt is input signal and yt is output of LTI system. So this is LTI system characterized by linear constant coefficient differential equation. Now applying Laplace transform to both sides and using the linearity and differentiation properties repeatedly, we obtain bracket summation k running from 0 to capital N AK s raised to k into ys, and that is equal to summation k running from 0 to capital M bk s raised to k into xs. Now we know that hs is equal to ys by xs, that is system function hs is equal to system function hs is equal to system function hs. System function hs is equal to capital Ys by capital Xs, and that is equal to summation k running from 0 to capital M bk s raised to k divided by summation k running from 0 to capital N ak into sk s raised to power k. So I repeat, hs is equal to summation k running from 0 to capital M bk s raised to k divided by summation k running from 0 to capital N ak s raised to power k. The system function for an LTI system specified by a differential equation is always rational, with zeros at solutions of summation k running from 0 to capital M bk s raised to power k is equal to 0, and poles at the solutions of summation k running from 0 to capital N ak s raised to power k, that is equal to 0. The linear constant coefficient differential equation by itself does not constrain the ROC. However, with additional information about stability or causality of the system, the region of convergence can be inferred. In general, a generalization of CTFT is known as the Laplace transform. So I conclude that a generalization of continuous time Fourier transform is known as the Laplace transform. I repeat, it is concluded that a generalization of continuous time Fourier transform is known as the Laplace transform. Now we will have a view about inverse Laplace transform equation, that is equal to ht is equal to 1 by 2 pi j integration from sigma minus j infinity to sigma plus j infinity, capital Hs into e raised to power st ds. Assuming no multiple order pose and assuming that the order of the denominator polynomial is greater than the order of the numerator polynomial, we first perform a partial fraction expansion to obtain capital Hs is equal to summation I running from 1 to m ai divided by bracket s plus small ai, as shown on the screen. Now from ROC of capital Hs, the ROC of each of the individual terms in above equation can be inferred, and then the inverse Laplace transform of each of these terms can be determined. So it is a technique by which we can calculate inverse Laplace transform of capital Hs, that is equal to Ht. So that's all for today's lecture. And you can refer to these books. This first book is your textbook, that is Signal Systems by A.V. Oppenheim, by A.S. Wilsky, and by S.H. Nawab. And you can consult other 3 books also. You can consider these reference books. Thanks for attending this session on signals and system. See you in next lecture. Have a nice day.